And what's going on, Los Angeles, Bruin Nation, LAFB fam? How we all doing? Your dynamic duo, the Thriller and Madman, back together again for all of your UCLA football needs. And as you can see, the man that needs no introduction, the man that gets the blue carpet before Bob Chesney gets the blue carpet in LAX, the man, the myth, the legend, the Silver Fox, the first individual to beat USC back-to-back years, the one, the only, the great Mr. Wayne Cook. Wayne, so great to see you. Feels like after a long time, but so great to see you as always.
No, we were hitting it every week when we were winning, and then we started losing. I felt like you guys blamed it on me a little bit. I'm like, it's not my fault. I'm trying to stay positive, but it's so great to be back. I knew that when I reached out to you guys. See, I have ulterior motives. I sent a text to you guys, little group text, and I'm like, hey guys, good year, lots of fun. And I sat back and I just waited. I said, I hope they ask me to come on. I got to talk some Bruins, man. I needed the invite.
Oh my goodness, Wayne! You need no invite whatsoever. You know you can come on anytime, and we love your time and your insights so much. And Wayne, we got to start where we sort of left off earlier this week. Thriller and I are just over the moon with this hire. Bob Chesney, we got our guy from JMU. And you sort of planted this seed very, very early, Wayne, where you were saying even 2 months ago, look, there may be a world here where one of these smaller school coaches is the fit. They can bring their roster over. But Bob Chesney has won at every level. And we talked about it earlier this week. Similar path to guys that win at every level can win at the highest level, because when you've got comparable talent, then it's really your coaching, your system, your philosophy, your culture that comes into play. When we think about Saban, he won at every level from Kent State all the way to Bama. Think about Urban Meyer. Think about Jim Harbaugh. And Chesney now comes in 21-5. James Madison, they play Troy tomorrow night, and if they win, they're going to be in the college football playoff. Absolutely incredible. He was 44-21 at Holy Cross. Wayne, just what do you think right now about this hire? How did you think the process went? And particularly given the landscape of all that is going on, Penn State, excuse me, you're seeing, I think we came out with a resounding success here.
Absolutely. And I have to preface everything that we say that officially has not announced this officially yet. So as someone that works for the school, this is a lot of hypotheticals. So obviously, I'm very confident that it's going to happen, but it has not officially happened yet. So, the idea for me is, I love that it was weird that you brought up, because I hadn't even thought about it, Jim Harbaugh, because he was right down here at San Diego.
Exactly.
Crushing it. And he went to Stanford where they weren't winning and turned that sucker around quick. I mean, that's an interesting thought. I just think that, how do I get into this? I'm sad for some of the people that think that, UCLA's just reaching for another Cignetti hire. And I'm like, no, this guy's not Cignetti. As a matter of fact, when he came in, Cignetti had taken a bunch of what they had at James Madison with him.
Right. Exactly.
So he came in and went 9-4 the very first year, and then turned it into an 11-1 program that, by the way, if things go crazy, they could still get into the playoff. I mean, this is an amazing thing that he's done in a short period of time. And as you guys pointed out, he has won wherever he's been. So he knows how to win football. And then if you dig deeper, JMU defensively was stupid good this year. Off the charts in so many different categories in their ranking as a defensive team. And not to say that their offense was shabby either, because they're not. I mean, they were really, really good. So, and then you draw into it the charisma, because the first thing I did as a person that's going to have to interview this person is I already knew about him, but I wanted to listen to it do interviews. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. Everyone I watched, I'm like, now he's just got charisma. He's got a presence. He knows what he's talking about. He's not ever caught off guard. He's just so good. And then I'll add one more thing before we dive deeper. I really think that for the UCLA fan base, that as scarred as we are, as jaded as we can be, as grumpy as we can be at times, we needed, and I'm talking about the committee, I'm talking about Martin, I'm talking about Frank. I'm talking about everybody involved in this, okay? We made a hire that I think 99% of the people that like UCLA are like, yes.
Yeah.
And this is one that didn't get away from us. It's one that felt like it's probably been in the bag for a while, right? It's one that it just feels like we knew who we wanted and we went. And I don't know any of the details because, again, officially it's not done yet. But like the idea is that I feel like we're going to have this period where the fan base is going to be excited. And I want that. I want all the people that cover this team. I feel like they're going to be excited. So you're not going to get all the negative that I think sometimes affects our program. I know we can't always be positive, and you guys know if you listen to me after games, I'm not always positive. As a matter of fact, I'm downright grumpy sometimes at the end of games because it's hard to do the post-game shows. But, man, sometimes, and people don't realize this, in the world of social media, in the world that everybody hears everything, if the same 10 people are always writing crappy stuff, it gets out. It becomes the narrative of UCLA. And so I'm really excited about this for like a million different reasons, but like that's one of them. I think everybody's going to be pretty excited about this. And so that gives me a lot of hope that a lot can change because we have another transfer portal coming up here pretty quick.
Yep.
Recruiting went probably better than it should have. And then you've got a transfer portal coming up that could be really interesting.
Yeah, no, it's really exciting just with the Chesney news. And I feel like we just got shocked to life as a fan base. Just the excitement we've seen from the last week. I know, yeah. There's EMTs on the back of the vehicle shocking our fan base back to life. But, I think a lot of the fan base was very understanding about the recruiting that happened this week. We had some key decommitments from, the Foster era continuing to the Bob Chesney era. And I take that trade every time, Wayne. When you look at you get the new coach in, the hot young coach out there. And we talked about this previously with Jamal. Like, Nick Saban didn't just get born on this earth and became Nick Saban. Like, he had to rise himself up through the ranks. Urban Meyer started at Bowling Green in Utah before he went to Florida. We feel like Chesney could be this hire, potentially with what we've seen. What do you like about Chesney on paper? And did you have any inklings of this? I remember talking to you saying you met with Peters on the sideline when he was in town for the Rose Bowl. Did you get any inklings that Chesney was going to be our guy before the rest of the public did?
I don't know if I did. I was hopeful, though. That was a name that popped up pretty early, and I was like, and then you do a little bit of a deep dive, and I do a podcast with Stephen Hartzell, who's a JMU alumnus, and I'm like, dude, what do you think of this guy? Oh, he's awesome. All he could tell me was he's better looking than I am, but that's okay. And that's okay. Hey, if you're gonna come to LA, can't hurt to be a good-looking guy, right? Can't hurt to have a little bit of charisma. Can't hurt because like there's so many things that can happen. Like I've been begging for and to give. By the way, congrats to Tim Skipper, everybody going to Cal Poly. I'm so happy for him because I think we all can agree that he's one of the nicest guys we've all ever been. I mean, he did a great job, but. And this isn't really a but this is we're going to have a coach now that's going to be good in front of the camera too. Someone that I think we're going to be able to listen to and be proud of and be like, hey, this is a guy that's going to be seen on TV and moms and dads and recruits are going to be like, wow, I would like to play for that guy. Because we've all seen it. There's coaches that exist in all sports that are so charismatic. I mean, like we don't have to look very far. Just watch the Rams. Right?
No doubt.
Like you've got a coach there that's got so much charisma that it's like it oozes through the television. I mean, it's incredible, and I think that Chesney has that kind of charisma, and people are going to be drawn to him, and so and then you throw in the coaching acumen. Like you can't just be fake, right? You can't just be a pretty face, and then when like you're like a model and you start talking, you're not very smart. If you can have both of those things, by the way, these are terrible. I teach 8th grade all day, and it's 8:00 at night. So if I made a weird analogy right there, I apologize. But the idea is that it feels like we have a chance, like you guys are saying, to have the complete package. Like I always thought Terry Donahue was the complete package.
Yeah,
he had that when he was seen on camera and on TV. The cameras wanted to be on him.
Right.
Not only because of like looks, but just because they have that something that the cameras are drawn to. And then the next thing you know, people see that person a lot and they become that famous coach that coaches for that cool school. And I'm telling you, that helps in recruiting. So there's all kinds of stuff going on here. I have no idea what the staff's going to look like. I don't know who's going to be retained, who's going to be gone. I don't know. I really don't, because that's all going to be, I imagine things are going to move pretty quick after Friday's game. And then changes, because JMU, for those of you that don't know, plays on Friday night, tomorrow night. So, which is going to be great. We should all watch, by the way. And
no doubt.
Because what they do is what we might be seeing. So so there's going to be a ton of changes. I don't worry at all about the West Coast stuff. People are like, well, he's never been. You guys, listen, if you've got charisma and you know where and it's real easy to find out where the high schools are. Everybody knows where the good players are. He walks in the door first day and people are going to be like, I like this guy. So I don't think it's going to be a big deal at all. I think sometimes those connections are overrated, because, to be honest with you, some of those coaches get kind of tired of the coaches just go through the motions and show up just to show up. Right? If you're doing it right, you can be a new coach in a new area and have a huge impact in recruiting.
No question about it, Wayne. And, I think our fans are really excited to, of course, hear from you and the insights. One of the things that's sort of popping up, Wayne, is anything that you have seen to this point in terms of kind of studying Chesney, perhaps some past games, past experiences, anything that you're seeing that pops out from a scheme standpoint, offensively and defensively, anything that you're going to expect to see, or type of guy he's going to be recruiting to sort of fit a particular system, anything on the X's and O's side that you have an inkling for?
Well, what I've seen from the limited amount that I've watched of JMU, and I'm not going to lie, and I bet you guys probably would tell me the same thing. You haven't watched a million JMU games. But the idea is that I know they play great defense. I mean, they're ranked like 1, 2, or 3. Like, when I heard the stats on their third down defense, I went, "Oh my God, that's just," because let's be honest, whenever UCLA seems to be bad, third down as an offense and defense is just like a headache to me. It's like, my God, how can we be so bad on third down? And when you hear how good they are on third down defense, you go, huh. And then you look over on the other side of the ball, and they had a dual threat quarterback this last year. I think he was a junior, and he ran for a ton of yards, and he throws the ball well. And then they had a running back that went for 1,000. And I'm starting to think, so they play defense, they run the ball well. I mean, to me, this is a recipe. I've always felt like UCLA could be that team that can do that. And whether it's Nico Iamaleava that decides to stay, whether he doesn't and another person comes in, like whatever happens, and we don't know if the coordinators are coming, right? If this is what's going to happen, we don't know what that's going to look like. But playing defense and running the football really well, to me, has always been a recipe. But then when you mix into it the ability to throw and all the other stuff, that sounds like pretty good stuff to me. We'll geek out maybe a little bit more if we talk after I watch this whole game about what they're running. But again, I've always said good coaches for the most part, and I feel like a lot of these young and up and coming coaches, because I still consider him young. I think he's in his second half of his 40s, correct? Like
yep, exactly, 48. Yep,
which is young to me. I'm turning 55 this year, but hopefully we'll be kind of in the same age bracket when we start talking.
55 going on 27, Wayne. Come on now.
But the idea is that a great coach will adjust to the players that they have. So, and we saw a little bit about that with Kevin Coyle this year, that came straight in and said, what we're doing is not working. We need to change. And it still didn't end up great, but it did get better. So the good ones will modify and adjust. We even saw it a little bit on offense. We had some success for a little while, and then the offense just kind of stopped after, really the Maryland game on, we didn't play offense very well.
Right.
We had moments, but it was a struggle. So I'm just excited about that part of it, right, guys? Like the excitement of something new, because this was we like, what was it like? We've had like 3 9-loss seasons ever.
Yeah.
So this is up there as one of the hardest seasons to endure, and yet it still feels like there's hope right now, which is exciting.
Wayne, I've got a 2-part question. We got a bunch of fans in the comments right now that got some questions. So you can answer this one, and then I got a 2-parter coming on. So the first question is from our guy, ASDFQWER. I'm not going to say the rest of that, but Wayne, what do you think from a culture or infrastructure perspective needs the improvement most when it comes to UCLA football? So that's the first question. The second question, we haven't talked about the Rose Bowl scenario with you yet, and UCLA potentially moving out of the Rose Bowl to a SoFi Stadium. I just want to get your feelings on that as a former player, as a guy that, laid it on the line out there at the Rose Bowl every Saturday as a UCLA quarterback. So go with the first question right here from our guy in the comments, and then talk to me about the Rose Bowl and how you feel about that.
So listen, culture. I was lucky enough, you guys, to get a chance to go out and speak to the team last week. Tim Skipper invited me out. Eric Kendricks was out there one day, and I was out there on Wednesday. And I've always said this: UCLA, there's a lot of really good young men. But at the same time, when I'm watching practice, I'm noticing and again, I'm not trying to pick on anybody, so I'm not going to say any names, but scout team players just kind of not going hard enough. And it was a Wednesday. I'm like, you're a scout team player. You need to play as hard as you can. You make the offensive guys hate you, because we don't like it when guys go too hard because they make us look bad sometimes. But so what? That's your job. It's like the Rudy movie. If I don't give it my best, I'm not helping you get better. So stuff like that needs to be unacceptable. That's a player thing. Players should not accept players going through the motions in practice, because when you're 3-9, you need to be practicing harder than that. And I'm not saying that that's everybody, but it's enough to where I noticed it. But I also noticed when I was talking to the team that they were attentive and listening, and they care. And I get to know a lot of these kids, and I really like them. I just want them to be pushed in a way that makes them the best that they can be. And I always tell that every time when you're playing this game, no matter what the NIL money is and all that stuff, if you're not driven or pushed by people to reach your maximum potential, then we're not doing our job. And if you're one of those players that's not going to respond to that, then you need to go somewhere else. That needs to be the culture from the coaches and players. You need to give it everything you got. This game is really freaking hard, and you don't win games with players that aren't giving it their best. So that is part of it. But I think this is getting at also that it's more about what's going on in the program. And let's be honest, there's more than just coaches. There's layers now from general managers, people there's so many people involved in recruiting. I'll give you guys an example. Remember how much I used to talk about Pagan as a receiver?
Yeah.
And how much I loved him. And I've told you guys that on the show. I'm like, this guy should be a player. He's a star. He reminded me of Sean LaChapelle, who was
anyone
one of the best.
That watched Pagan on the practice field understood what was going on there.
So
I tweeted it out this week. Looked like a god-dang All-American at times on that practice field, man.
And I know some of it's injuries, you guys, but he ended up being first team All-Conference and had almost 1,000 yards receiving at Utah State. I sent him a DM. He hasn't responded to me yet. I just was so happy for him, because he was one of those guys that I pulled aside a lot. And I go, dude, you need to hang in there. You're a player. But I also remember being out of practice and watching Schlesinger practice and going, this guy should be playing. Why is he not playing? I'd watch him at practice and go, this kid, he's a walk-on. I don't care if he's a walk-on. He's the best guy out there. And look what he's doing right now. I mean, and there's stories that I have throughout the past with myself, Matt Stevens, where why is it? I don't know if you remember the guy that played running back for us that went to SMU and played defensive back. He was really good. He ended up starting for them at defensive back. God, it wasn't Harden. Harden ended up having a solid year this year. But no, this was a few years back. He had a brother that was a quarterback, and I'm forgetting his name right now. But I remember going, why is this guy not getting on the field? He's an athlete, because you could just see it. And so when you talk about recruiting and stuff like that, talent evaluation is important. I think a lot of times, and we see it at all levels, even in the NFL, guys recruit guys, and I go, why do you like that guy? Well, he's really athletic and he can throw the ball a million miles. I go, yeah, but he's not a good quarterback. I remember having a great conversation with David Shaw, and I won't say this guy's name, about an NFL guy that everybody was so high on. And I'm like, he's an underwear model. He's not a quarterback. And we don't hear about him in the NFL right now because he looks great, but he's not a quarterback. And it's some people, for whatever reason, aren't evaluating talent the right way. For the people that are anti-Chip Kelly, think about, and again, I'm not saying pro or con here. I'm just saying think about some of the transfer portal people that were brought in under that, and they were really, really, really good. And so, Now, the recruiting part of it, and this is what I'm excited about too, for all the people that were upset about the lazy recruiting. And again, we could argue about this stuff all day, but it feels like that's over, right? I mean, now
Absolutely.
we'll be able to hopefully bring in transfers and crush it in recruiting. And I think that's the key. And then to end, all those upper level positions, and this is the last thing I'll say, and this is all I've ever wanted. When you come to UCLA, and I'm pretty sure if you Googled it, what are the top 20 AP teams of all time, that UCLA is still in that top 20. For all the people around the country that act like this is not a good job, I really have strong words for you, because I don't agree. And for our fan base that acts like, oh, we're not a good job, we've become so, I'm like, we can win here.
Right.
The 8, 9, and 8 wins in a row were what would that have been like with elite recruiting? Right? We still had Sharps, we still had Bobo, we still had Latu, we had all these really good players that are in the NFL. You know, Muasau, we got another Muasau, by the way. All of that stuff, but now you add that in with great high school recruiting too, and UCLA can win. I'm never going to be one of those people that's like, yeah, we're doomed. Football's over. I think, and it can happen faster than you think. The modern era allows for you to turn things over pretty fast. So, you know, and the biggest obstacle is going to be things like NIL, right? How much money are we going to get from the school? Like we're going to find out, right? Because this is a new regime, right? So how is that all going to work? And but everybody's got to believe. If there are people that are a part of this process that are going to be happy with bowl games, not compete, because again, I'm not going to say national championships because I'm not going to be a lunatic, but I'm saying bowl game 6-6 to me is not good enough. Challenging, and I heard Kenny Dillingham say something very similar when he was talking about Arizona State. Challenging for a playoff berth, being in the picture, having teams that are going to be built to where maybe not this year, but next year, oh my gosh, look at all we have coming back. Like that type of a team, and then maybe you lose some and you go down a little bit, but you're climbing right back towards the top. I think UCLA can be that team that's in that 20 to 10 range with every once in a while. Could you get higher than that? Yes. It happened with Troy Aikman. It happened with Cade McNown. My junior year, we were 14. That would have been right on the before the Rose Bowl. That would have been right on the cusp of a playoff, correct? Like those things, we can do that. And so that's what I think. But everybody has to believe, and I hope that with the coaching change that they bring in people that truly believe.
Well, Wayne, I mean, you said it best, and I think we've all agreed that this is a team that can be a perennial top 20 team. It should be a perennial top 20 recruiting class every year, given where the Southern California pipeline is, where, this school is from an academic standpoint, alumni standpoint, the campus. There's really no reason that UCLA can't be a perennial top 20 recruiting ranking type of school, and that you're in that 9 to 10 win range just about every year. And now where we are with this playoff, look, the playoff's at 12 right now. Very high likelihood it's going to expand to 14 or 16. I mean, what you're essentially saying is, can you get to top 4 in the Big Ten, right? I mean, that's essentially what we're saying to be able to make the playoff. And look, I mean, fourth best team in the Big Ten this year, SC. I think that's a fair assessment. 9-3, 7-2, right? Michigan was also 9-3. So if you can get to 9-3, you can drop a couple conference games, and you can still be right in the mix. We all forget it. This is why UCLA, Wayne, is so fascinating. I think our fans are saying it here. I mean, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. This was a perennial top 20 team.
Yep.
It's been really since the turn of the century. I couldn't believe this one stat, Wayne. I had to look at it again, that we are, over the last 20 years, cumulatively one game under 500. Like, that, to me, that is shocking. I can't, I mean, it's unfathomable to me. And so you have this incredible dichotomy of 50, 60 years of really rich history. And then things kind of turned here in these last 15, 20 years. But with the right coach, we're right back in the mix. And everyone forgets, despite all of that, I mean, think about that 22 team with DTR and Sharps and Bobo. I mean, sitting there, Wayne, at 8-1 in the hosting Arizona. That one throw to Bobo comes into the end zone, or the one interception on the last drive there against the Caleb Trojans. One of those two plays goes differently. UCLA's in the playoff potentially in 2022 if you had that system in place today. So it's not that far away if you get it right. Wayne, I want to ask you a question here. I think it's very evident that Chesney, with his personality, with his moxie, with his intellect, I think is going to do a great job recruiting. What do you think is a reasonable expectation year one in 26? As we had a great class to a point. It held in the 40s, and then kind of signing day, we lost some guys, Micah Smith, we lost Schwartzel, lost Carter Gooden. It's sort of fallen back to the 90s. Everyone's expecting Chesney to be able to pull a bunch of guys from JMU over. What do you think is sort of a reasonable expectation year one, given transfer portal, pulling guys over, getting his system in place?
So, and I promise, that was an awesome question, so I'm going to answer that, but I felt bad because I didn't answer Will's question. I'm a Bruin, so no matter where we play, I'm going to support the team.
Yeah.
I love the Rose Bowl, but no matter where we play, I'm going to support the team. And I struggle with this because as an older person, I have so many great memories of the Rose Bowl, but I also know that 18-year-olds probably going to think the SoFi is pretty cool. So, and I also think this is a long way from being done. The courts are, I know everybody was acting like it was a funeral at the last game at the Rose Bowl and that we were never coming back, but I think there's a lot more roadblocks ahead. So I have no idea. And by the way, hasn't it been very silent? We've been worried about the coaching search, but it seems like not a lot of people have been talking about that lately. So that's it. And then to the last thing that you guys talked about, think about all the athletes we had on those Brett Hundley teams, right? Think about the Miles Jacks of the world. Think about the years with Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks. Think about the years, like some of those, we had elite players and we were close then. Couple 10-win seasons, right? Then you talked about the DTR team, like the one with the Arizona game. Even if you remember the Arizona State game where they were doing that weird stuff the Kenny Dillingham's first year, I think, and we couldn't figure it out. The year that we beat Utah and Washington back-to-back that was Michael Penix, that was, Utah going to the Rose Bowl type teams. Those teams were good enough to win. We just, for whatever reason, championship teams have to win a couple games that are tight, and we didn't. So we've been close. Those are examples of two different eras, quite a few years apart during that 20-year stretch where we were close. Now, I know you guys have looked at next year. The schedule is inviting, right? I mean, it's. I know the Michigan's on the schedule, and I know whatever. Michigan's not quite what they were when Harbaugh was there, but they're still good. Okay. But SC beat them, and we were beating USC at halftime with one of the worst teams we've had in a long time. I mean, and again, those are just examples of maybe we're not as far away as we think. But we need more talent, right? We need explosive players at receiver. I actually thought this year we had the ability, like if you really look at Jalen Berger's stats, he had a solid year. He just didn't get enough carries. And I don't know what we were doing. We had so many games where I thought Jalen Woods had a chance to be electric. I know Javian was hurt a lot at the second half of the year. But Woods and Berger both had the ability to be solid. I just don't think they were put in a situation. I don't think they were untalented. I think they were actually very talented. We just didn't give them any help. So that bothered me. I do think we need to get more explosive at receiver. Every time I watch a receiver actually catch a ball and keep running, I'm like, oh my gosh. I kind of remember that's what quarterback that used to happen when you throw a good pass and they catch it and then they keep going. They don't just fall down like they were like taken out by a sniper in the building. But like that involves accurate passes and guys that have the ability to. You don't catch the ball like you're hoping you catch the ball and then fall down. You're catching the ball like you're a really good receiver and you keep running because you've done that your whole life. Like, I just feel like when you talk about the Indianas of the world, they got that two-headed monster that's so good. When you see Ohio State play, we saw both those teams, right? They have those two receivers that are so good. They're just, that changes the game. It changes the game. So we have to find a way to find our next Freddie Mitchell, Danny Farmer, J.J. Stokes, Flipper Anderson, Mike Sherrard. Like, go down the list of great receivers, and there's a lot more than that. We need some of that. And that's not a knock on the guys we have, but we need playmakers that are going to make teams worry about them. So to answer your question on next year, I like the schedule. I don't know what our team is yet, though. Right? So I think the transfer portal is going to be huge. It's not that often that these 12, now 13 freshmen coming in are going to have the hugest of impact. I'm not saying they can't. They might. But that's hard. So I just think that portal window, and we only have one now, right? That's going to be gigantic because everybody else knows that this is a really good coach. Everybody else knows that this guy wins everywhere. So and trust me, people are going to start going into the portal like crazy, right? So who are we going to pick up? Is it going to be players from JMU? Is it going to be, who are we going to get? Because if you hit the portal right, we've seen it. If you hit the portal right, if you bring in the Murphys and you bring in Latu and you bring in Muasau, if you bring in Oladejo, these guys end up having a huge impact on your team, and there's more than that too. So let's see what happens with that. I think that's going to matter. But look, could you guys not count next year and get to 8 wins? No problem.
Yeah, I mean it's with that.
But you don't know who we have.
Yeah, exactly.
But if it would, you know what I mean? If it had been like a normal year for UCLA, if we're like a solid, normal 6 to 8 wins, that type of team, I think I look at that schedule and I go, yeah, we could get that. We could get more. Yeah.
Yeah, if he inherited that roster that Foster had first year with Garbers coming back,
right.
I think it was like 18 of 22 starters returning. I think we would have had a real shot at doing something like that. I want to ask you a question. So the GM topic of UCLA football has come up in this week with the recruiting going on. Kerry Darlington is the GM of UCLA football. How important is it in today's landscape to have a GM as part of a football program? And have you met Kerry? Is he a good guy?
Yeah.
Is he somebody UCLA fans should rally around and think he could do a solid job here for UCLA?
Yeah, I see him on the sidelines all the time. I'm not going to say we've had a ton of in-depth conversations, but he's a great guy. As a matter of fact, this is what stinks about this job, you guys. They're all. I don't think I disliked any of them. All these people are really nice people, and they're very supportive of what I do, and I'm very supportive of what they do. Like because we're in this together. But we have to be realistic, right? Like I'm not going to say I support Tim Skipper 100%. I'm very happy that he got the Cal Poly job, but it wasn't in the cards for him to be at UCLA anymore. And I think I told him that after the last game. I said, I don't know what's going to happen, next week or the week after, but man, I love you, man. You're a great guy. So that's kind of the thing with all of it. We're going to have to let the new regime that comes in make these decisions. And if we support the head coaching hire, then we're going to have to support the hires that are made because that's what this person believes. You guys all get what I'm saying? I think if we all get a little crazy, like, hey, you should keep this guy or you should keep that guy or what are you doing getting rid of this guy? Then do we really support the guy that's coming in to make these decisions?
Right.
I got to imagine that one of the things that Nick Cope, who I do the Bruin Insider Show with every week, he went back and listened to Chesney's press conference when he took the JMU job. And one of the things he talked about with all the success that he had was how the school supported what he wanted to do. Like, and you guys know, right. If a coach has a vision and he doesn't get the support, it's the most frustrating thing in the world. You've even heard, if you've listened to Rick Neuheisel talk about it enough, he and I even had conversations with him about this when he was coaching at UCLA. Like, this was before the new facilities and all that stuff, right? He was like, we have to do some things to keep up with everybody else. And it eventually happened. But how frustrating is it when you can't, like, when everybody that comes to your place, you just can't get them because you don't have the support from the school that you need. So as long as the school supports him, I'm going to go and say whoever we hire, I'm on board, right? Like, if we're going to support this new hire, we're going to be on board with the decisions they make. And if that means retaining people, yes, because he's decided that they're worthy of being retained. And if that means they've got to move on and find a better job, I'm going to root for them. It's just like when people transfer, right? The nice people say, hey, good luck in your next endeavor. Like, I hope you go succeed. So, and if not, to be honest with you, I love Logan Loya. He struggled in Minnesota this year. I didn't think that was a great choice for him. It's not exactly a place where they go light it up throwing the ball. But for a guy like Pagan, I was like, extremely excited because he was kind of getting overlooked at UCLA and he went somewhere else and showed that he's really good. So that long-winded answer, but I'm going to support the decisions that the coach makes.
No, Wayne, I love that answer. And, I'm going to try and channel some of the chat with our fans here. Two-part question here, Wayne. One is, how instrumental a role did the search committee play? This 4-person search committee. And I know it's a hypothetical and it's sort of a counterfactual, but do you think we would have gotten to the place we did if that committee was not in place? So that's sort of question one. And question two, if you were this individual's father or mentor or advisor, what would you sort of advise Jerry Neuheisel to do?
Oh, wow. So this is very difficult because the first one, wow, you threw me off with that Jerry Neuheisel question. Just real quick, what was the first one again?
First one is just how instrumental did the committee,
the
committee, the 4-person search committee play?
8th grade teacher, getting them ready for a final.
No,
right now.
not at all.
I'm not fully there. I think the committee mattered a ton.
Yeah.
I think that, I think when Martin was given the confidence to put this together, and he went out and got Adam and got Aaron was a part of it, who I see on the sidelines all the time, and they got these really good people that are successful at a very high level and that know football, right? That know sports. And it just feels like, and I bet you everybody listening would say this, like if this ends up, by next week, we're 100% certain UCLA posts that this is our coach. I'm going to go ahead and say that most people out there would say, like, this is probably the best coaching search we've had in the last 20 years, 30 years. Yeah. I mean, again, I know there's a ton of Mora supporters, and I agree. And Mora's done a great job at UConn, and now he's going to be at Colorado State, and I like Jim a lot. But this feels like it gives us a chance to really, for the next handful of years, have a whole lot of hope. And I know that listen, I know people are like, well, what about the Chip Kelly hire when it happened? I want you guys to remember this. Chip Kelly had a lot of baggage from the NFL. Like, you guys remember that, right?
Oh, yeah.
There were people throwing.
I'm a Niners fan, Wayne.
But some of it was ugly stuff. It wasn't just about coaching. It was some other stuff too, and I won't say what it was, but I think most of us remember. And whether it was even true or not, and I had a great relationship with Chip Kelly. I really did. Like, he was awesome to me. But the idea was it wasn't like it was clean. But people saw the Oregon teams and went, I want that. Right, they could ignore the other stuff. So, the idea that I just feels like when you're trying to find, that's what people are throwing out. Well, he's never coached on the West Coast before. He's never recruited out here. If that's it, good job. Like, if that's the con, and then you've got this long list of pros. Like, I would argue they did an amazing job, right? So as far as Jerry Neuheisel, and he's another person that I've known for a long time. I covered him as a player. I was at the Texas game. I was there. Like, it was one of my favorite moments as a broadcaster. His dad, when he was in his 30s, was the receiver coach for J.J. Stokes and Kevin Jordan when I played quarterback. And then he left before my senior year, but he was there in 93 when we played in the Rose Bowl. And so I have connections. I just saw Rick not that long ago. I talked to Jerry at practice last week. I want these people to succeed. We know Jerry's been a very loyal and a great coach. He's a Bruin through and through. What stinks is that he took over a team that was really struggling and probably didn't have all the pieces. And he was forced to and they made changes. They made changes and tried to put things together. And the Penn State game was incredible. Yeah. But it was a lot of Nico. Right, it was a lot of Nico in his legs, and then you're like, okay, so can Nico do that every game? And then we saw the Michigan State game, and we're like, this is really good. I truly think that Michigan State game was the most complete game. Right, It was like he didn't even have to run much. We were just getting the ball. I think 11 different receivers caught balls. Like, it was wonderful, and I'm like, okay, here we go. But then from Maryland on, it was just a constant struggle. We saw glimmers of hope against USC, at least early in the game. And then again, we went right back to not being able to score in the second half. So, listen, he's a really good coach. I don't know what his future holds. I don't know. People are funny. They're like, he's going to go with Colorado State and be with Coach Mora, and he's going to go. And I go, I don't know if he's going to get coordinator offers. I don't know if he's going to get receiver coach offers. Tight end, I don't know. I know he's going to be able to go coach, though. He's proven to be a good enough coach that he's going to get to do that. And if he gets an opportunity to coach offense, and again, I'm not even saying it's not his fault. The way this team was set up this year and for him to take over the way he did, it was going to be a tough challenge because I think once defensive coordinators kind of figured out what we couldn't do, it was over. Like, because then all the little short outside stuff wasn't going to work anymore. We had no downfield threat. We really weren't consistent running the football. And so, you put Jerry Neuheisel takes over because the offensive coordinator for Ohio State has a heart attack, and he probably lights it up all year, right? Because every play you run with those guys is going to work a lot better. And so it's not fair. So my advice is be proud. You did a heck of a job. You gave it everything you got. And if you're into this coaching thing, just keep going. Like, opportunities will present themselves. He's still a very young man.
Yeah. No, exactly. And, we had Ben Royer, on Twitter who covers the Bruins for the Orange County
I love Ben.
Register.
Yeah.
He does a great job. And he actually did some detective work. So David Schwerzel announced his commitment via Instagram. And one of the prominent likes on that post was Nico Iamaleava saying, hey, I'm coming to UCLA. Ultimately, Schwerzel flips to Washington. But the Nico it kind of stood out amongst the fan base saying, hey, he's liking this guy coming to UCLA. There could be a chance Nico comes back. If Nico is to return to UCLA next year, and I think, it's crazy to me, some of the UCLA fan base, Wayne, is kind of in or out with Nico, which I think is insane given how dysfunctional this year was on so many different fronts. He may have had the toughest year of any quarterback given what he dealt with coming from Tennessee. We talked about the Penn State game. I thought it was arguably one of the best games played by a quarterback in the Big Ten all season long. If Nico can come back next year, and I think the great thing of what we know about Chesney is Chesney builds from the trenches as well. He had the number one offensive line and the number one defensive line in the Sun Belt last year. Those were the biggest problems we had with UCLA. What could be the ceiling if Nico comes back next year in year one? And let's just say we fortify those lines to a passable grade when everything's said and done.
So I talked about this a little bit in the post-game show after the USC game. I actually think Nico should come back. I think he needs more. And again, I will tell you this. I've got to know Nico this year. I love the guy. He's so tough. He's such a nice guy. He never doesn't look like, if I see him after a game, even after a loss, he's like, hey, he's not going to shy. He doesn't avoid and I also know that he's coachable. So for me, his inconsistencies are more throwing. He's one of the more elite runners that I've seen. He gets skinny. He already is skinny, but you saw the one where he ducked the guy. He's 6'6". Who does that? He makes some runs that are so incredible. But if we surround him, as you said, with a better offensive line, when you surround him with, and by the way, proud of you, Garrett DiGiorgio. I know we only had one offensive player that got honors for the Big Ten, and it was Garrett. And I love Garrett, and he's such a great guy, and I'm rooting for him in the future. But if we can build that into a much better functional, better system, because I've always thought the system helps the O-line too. You got to have the right system. And surround him with the right people. But here are the things. Sometimes Nico, when he rolls out, a guy's wide open, and he waits till he's almost out of bounds before he throws it. You got to get it out. I could teach that in a day. You come around the edge, and I even saw Luke do that once too. Get around and square your shoulders and get those guys. Take the cupcakes, take the layups, take it right away. And he threw one in another game downfield, same type of play, and it was just a terrible throw, and the guy was wide open. Sometimes when he throws the ball deep over the middle, when he really tries to gun it, his arm will come down and the ball will sail and it'll go over guys' heads. He does that too, and we all know that over the middle high throws are not good. Right?
Yeah,
because they end up being tipped, they end up being interception. So, like, I also notice, like, and again, Nico, I love you. These are just like an old quarterback observing you. Like, I would love to see some more touch. Like, the great Kurt Warner talked about how he hardly ever threw the ball as hard as he could. And if you really watch really good quarterbacks, they're more throwing with the right firmness. They throw a catchable ball, and they want to put it. I mean, like, literally, my coach used to say, hit that front shoulder, like on a slant. We saw Luke do it, and it led to some big plays. The Rico run, if you throw those things accurately, but he throws the ball so hard sometimes. And it's not, and if it's not entirely accurate, it makes it a really hard catch. So if I'm him, I'm 100% working on my feet. I'm 100% working on my fundamentals. I'm 100% working on my arm not coming down too low, keeping it up. And I'm working on some touch. Throw a lot of two balls. You don't have to always throw 100 miles an hour. Like, throw that 80-mile-an-hour ball that kind of feathers its way in there, and you still get it there on time. And if you're worried about, well, it's going to be late, then throw the ball sooner. Like, that's the key. And so there's so much little things that I'm like, man, if we can just get this guy the right coaching, we've got a 6'6" gazelle, right? We got a guy that runs like when he takes off, you guys, he is legitimately fast. I've seen a lot of
no question.
Like, there's quarterbacks that can run. No, he's fast. If he ever gets away from you, you're not going to catch him unless you're really fast. So he's got that, and he's got a strong arm. So if he just works on those other things, I think his stock is going to go way up. But I still think he could use that extra year to really improve on that stuff.
No, Wayne, I think you said it best. With Nico, it was interesting. There were so many interesting plays in the Victory Bell game this year. There was one that maybe you caught kind of, it was second quarter or third quarter, I can't recall now, but Nico started to scramble kind of up the middle and he slipped, and that particular drive was fine because UCLA ended up getting the first down, moving the ball down the field. I think it was that last drive of the first half, that went 8 minutes. And a lot of folks were like, ooh, if he only stayed on his feet there, because he's so fast and he's so fluid. It really is remarkable what he's able to do. And, when you're talking about the construction of JMU earlier, dual threat quarterback, really good running back, great defense. I mean, dual threat quarterback, I don't know if there's going to be a better dual threat quarterback in the Big Ten next year, potentially, if Nico decides to stay, than Nico Iamaleava. And so, to your point, if you can get the right protection for him, and part of it too, Wayne, is I think, and you know this better than anyone, you start seeing ghosts out back there too. If you're not getting great protection and you're running for your life every play, it's really hard to stay poised, play after play after play, and have touch, right? I mean, the heart rate's accelerated, your pace is constantly accelerated, so your velocity is going to be higher too. You're going a little bit too fast because there is kind of a frantic energy subconsciously, because you're going to get, crushed just about on every play. So I think it's going to be interesting, to your point, to see the evolution. Wayne, we'll leave you with this. I know it's late and we're so grateful for the time and so grateful for all the fan engagement. We love all the fans here. Thank you so much for making this a part of your evening. And it would mean the world to us as we're building out this Bruins community to hit that like and subscribe button for Will and I to provide the best UCLA content we possibly can. We love UCLA so much, and it's what we want to do more than anything. Wayne, you played in the Rose Bowl. You're Jerry Neuheisel, you folks of that ilk, you guys are Bruins for life. You've been following the team, covering the team in a very significant and intimate way for 30 years. On a scale of 1 to 10, A, what was the most excited you've ever been in the last 30 years since your playing days about UCLA? And B, where is that ranking in relation to where you are right now in terms of level of excitement?
I loved the Brett Hundley years.
Yeah.
I just thought we had so many good players. It was fun. I really enjoyed watching our defense with those DTR teams. Well, with Latu and the Murphys and Kane and all the and Muasau and all those good players. I felt like we had even going back to remember when we still had Ramsey, who went on to. We had him and I think Kenny Churchwell were back there, and they just were really good. Like, I don't know. I think that those 10-win seasons with Brett were really, really fun. Like those felt like we were right there. And for people that don't remember, we were averaging 70,000 people at the Rose Bowl. So like that was extremely exciting too, because it was just fun. I mean, I've had games like that, like the LSU game when Ogeron was calling us Sissy Blue or whatever. That was really fun. Because, the SEC acts like they would never lose that game. And I bet you if you asked them if that game happened, they'd deny it. They say that you're just making stuff up. But, like, there's been moments, but there hasn't been as many of those consistently good seasons. And it's just, I at the end of Chip's run, I really did think we were close. I know people yell at me when I say stuff like that, but I thought we had enough players to win. And that makes me happy. When we have enough players to win, then I feel pretty good about it. Right now, I'm just like everybody else. I have a ton of hope. Like I really feel like this is a home run, like what we're doing right now. I'm hoping that Julio Frank is the person that I think that cares about football. I'm not going to say that we didn't have someone that cared about football before. You can fill that in any way you want, but when I was playing football, Chancellor Young was on the field, like in Terry Donahue's ear. He wanted to call plays. That's how much he liked football. And when you have a chancellor that cares about football, and I met Julio Frank at the Rose Bowl this year. He was down on the sidelines, and I got a chance to talk to him, and he seems like a very nice guy. But, I'm hopeful that the school is 100% on board with UCLA being a good football program. And so I'm very, very excited because we've had a couple of changes now that looks like, okay, if you put that all in the mix and you bring in a really good coach, and if he has the resources to hire a really good staff and bring in the type players we want, I think this turnaround can happen pretty fast. I mean, you guys started with this. You guys, when you know how to win, it's like you find a way.
Yeah.
Like I always just tell people this, like, and this is going to sound like I'm self-promoting, but I'm not. But every time I ever played on any team, whether I was the youngest player when I was a little kid, because we always used to play like I played pony baseball. I was the only guy that made the All-Star team every single year in I always made it the first and second year. And I every time the coaches would sit me down because I was a younger one, and I'd be sitting there going, I'm better than everybody out here because that's just the way I was wired. I'm like, when I went to UCLA, it hurt me for the first time in my life. I wasn't playing. And I was like, this sucks. But by the end of my career, I was getting awards, and I was, MVP of the USC game, and I played it also. You find a way to climb to the top. And I feel like if you're always been a winner, when you look at people like that, he's going to find a way to climb to the top. Winners find a way to win, right? They find a way to move up. So I'm just real excited about that because it feels like we have a coach with a proven head coach track record that's been there, done that. So, like, I'm pretty pumped up, but I also know that there are a lot of things still need to happen, right?
Yeah. No doubt, Wayne.
Yeah, there's a lot more that's got to happen.
A lot more to come, but I'll close with this. This feels different in a very unique way because, Wayne, to your point, I think this is the first coaching hire in the post-Chancellor Charles Young era that felt very sophisticated from a football acumen standpoint. And, obviously, Coach Donahue, right, retired in 95. Everyone forgets Toledo was Donahue's offensive coordinator. Chancellor Young retired in 97. So Chancellor Young hired Bob Toledo. So everything that came after that was with, sort of Donahue's. I mean, everyone forgets the 97, 98 teams, the 20-game winning streak. That was Donahue's last recruiting class that became seniors. That was that run. And then Toledo, of course, was a Chancellor Young hire just to sort of extend that Donahue era. But since Chancellor Charles Young, we went obviously from Durrell to Neuheisel to Mora to Chip to DeShaun and so forth. It's been either, Bruin alums or sort of a very closed kind of coaching search in a very sort of narrow, myopic way. For better or for worse, this one felt very sophisticated. This one was the smoothest. You didn't hear all of these sort of ups and downs. It was quiet. And it felt like we got our guy. And the fact that that committee existed and the fact that the process was so smooth, to me, are pretty significant signals that this feels different, that UCLA is now going to take football very, very seriously in the 21st century. And my God, are we so excited about it. Well, Wayne, thank you so much. Yeah, please.
Do you mind, for one, that was awesome. I'm not going to add to that, but I am seeing people, and for everybody that's here, I just want to say thank you. I'm glad you support these two. They do a great job. But I feel the support all the time when I'm out at the Rose Bowl and when I'm walking around. And you'd be shocked how many people are like, "Hey, I love that Bruin Bible." You know, I'm like, "Well, those guys haven't had me on in like 3 weeks. What's going on?" Send them an angry text. But I really do appreciate the fans, and I know this is difficult times. And you guys all know that my job is to be as positive as I can be, even though sometimes that's hard. But like, we're in this, man. You know, you're listening to this show because you like the Bruins and you want to see the Bruins do well. So let's just hope for better times ahead. And I just want to let everybody know I appreciate them.
Absolutely, Wayne. And, you know, before we get out of here, we always like to sort of give our ode to our sponsor, the Sleeper app, #1 sports app in the market today. Sleeper app, live engagement feed, live chat, live stats. Really just an incredible platform there. Allows you to do all kinds of things, different lines, different parlays, different opportunities. Tell them the guys from the LAFB network sent you. Use that promo code UCLA LAFB. You get $100 off your match bonus. You put in 100, 100 becomes 200, and then you can go to town with the Sleeper app. I'm sure there's going to be some very interesting lines about the win-loss total for UCLA in 2026. Yeah, I think we can sort of hit that over there, Wayne. I got a good feeling about what Mr. Chesney is going to do in 2026. Well, as always, folks, thank you so much for making this a part of your evening. And we always close the same way with the same level of vigor and passion. Be loud, be proud, be passionate, Bruins. And like we always say, 4 is up forever, baby.